to wish Princess Margaret every happiness for her future.
Antony Armstrong-Jones undeniably lived a charmed life, but it was also marred by a propensity for scandal. His accomplishments elevated him into the royal family's inner circle, yet his romantic entanglements left a string of broken hearts. Antony Armstrong-Jones' life is a tale of remarkable achievements intertwined with heart-wrenching tragedies. Join us as we delve into the roller coaster ride that defined his existence, revealing both moments of great triumph and devastating sorrow. Indeed, Antony Armstrong-Jones undeniably experienced a life filled with success, fame, and even a close association with the royal family. However, beneath the glitz and glamour lay a series of scandalous episodes that left hearts broken and society abuzz. Antony's origins are traced back to an upper-class background. He was born into a family where his father held the esteemed position of a barrister, and his mother was a well-connected socialite. But life took an unexpected twist when his parents decided to part ways just before Antony's 5th birthday. This marked the beginning of a series of tumultuous changes that would shape his future. His mother, seeking a fresh start, quickly remarried Lawrence Parsons, who held the distinguished title of the 6th Earl of Ross. This union catapulted Antony into the realm of nobility, a significant distinction in the social hierarchy of 1930s England. However, despite this newfound status, Antony's experience within his own family was far from that of a cherished noble. Within the new household, his mother gave birth to 2 children with Parsons, which inadvertently created a sense of disparity for Antony. He often felt like a lesser member of the family due to his lack of noble lineage. The emotional turmoil of his childhood intensified when his family life unraveled even further. Antony's life took an unfortunate turn when he contracted polio during a holiday in Wales. His battle against this debilitating illness saw him confined to the Liverpool Royal Infirmary for 6 grueling months. What added a layer of heartache to this challenging period was the stark absence of his parents. Neither his newly remarried mother nor his father made an appearance to offer solace or support during this trying time, leaving young Antony to grapple with his ordeal alone. Upon his recovery from polio, Antony's parents did not make an effort to reconnect with their son. Instead, they opted to send him off to various boarding schools, including the prestigious Eton. Despite the physical limitations stemming from his illness, Antony remained undeterred. He pursued a range of interests, from photography to boxing and rowing, carving out a path for himself in the world. Despite his struggles to fit in with his step-family, Antony Armstrong-Jones's journey through elite schools eventually led him to Cambridge University. However, as was often the case in his life, things didn't go quite as planned. Initially, he pursued a degree in natural history, a choice that lasted a mere 10 days before he switched his focus to architecture. This change seemed to align with his true calling, but fate had another twist in store for him. A pivotal moment arrived when he faced failure in his second set of exams, dramatically altering the course of his future. Throughout his academic pursuits, Antony faced not only personal challenges, but also parental disapproval. His parents, it appeared, were less than enthusiastic about his budding career in photography, adding yet another layer of strain to their already distant relationship. In the midst of these struggles, Antony experienced his first major heartbreak. Lady Barbara North, the object of his affection, chose another suitor, one who was perceived as more successful. The wound was made all the more painful by the fact that Antony found himself photographing their wedding just 3 short months later. Determined not to let opportunities slip through his fingers again, Antony, who had initially approached photography as a hobby, drew upon his extensive connections stemming from his privileged upbringing, noble status, family ties, and prestigious education. The 1950s marked the era when Antony began building his reputation as a photographer. He carved a niche for himself by capturing captivating fashion photos and portraits of prominent stage stars, all while indulging in a more extravagant lifestyle. Antony had an innate talent for seamlessly blending business with pleasure. His Pimlico Road studio became a hub of activity, where he hosted lively parties, often attended by the young women he photographed. As his career flourished, so did the swirling rumors of both heterosexual and homosexual affairs. Despite the whirlwind of his social life, Antony remained relentlessly focused on his photography career. After achieving success in the realms of fashion, theater, and studio photography, he set his sights even higher, targeting royal portraits. His unconventional style caught the attention of none other than Queen Elizabeth II, who commissioned him to photograph her family. Initially, Antony Armstrong-Jones appeared as a charming addition to the social circles of the elite. But as his success and connections to the royal family grew, the dynamics of his relationships shifted. This growing closeness would later prove to have unintended consequences. Antony, recognizing the need to shield his personal life from prying eyes, especially his romantic entanglements, became more discreet. While the public speculated about his on-and-off affair with showgirl Jackie Chan, little did they know that this affair was just a smokescreen for a much more scandalous romance that remained hidden from the spotlight. By the late 1950s, Antony had solidified his status as a well-known figure in Great Britain. However, beneath the surface of his success lay a significant secret that he guarded closely. What had begun as a friendship with Princess Margaret, the Queen's sister, was quietly evolving into a deeper and more intimate relationship. This delicate situation unfolded against the backdrop of Margaret's recent, highly publicized breakup with Captain Peter Townsend. Margaret's life stood in stark contrast to Antony's. While he grappled with the quest for family attention and recognition in his career, Margaret faced the relentless pressures of being in the public eye. These pressures had played a significant role in the failure of her previous romance, leaving her heartbroken and vulnerable. Although they occasionally made public appearances together, the true essence of their connection thrived in the secrecy of private meetings. Here, hidden from the prying eyes of the world, they would engage in heartfelt discussions about Antony's work and their shared experiences. However, their moments of intimacy were limited, presenting an ongoing challenge to their budding relationship. Both Margaret and the royal family had learned valuable lessons from her past failed romance. Determined not to let the intrusive press disrupt her newfound connection with Antony, they took deliberate measures to protect their blossoming love story. Yet, as the saying goes, even the most carefully laid plans can often go awry, and the road ahead would prove to be far from smooth. The royal family was determined to handle Princess Margaret's relationship with Antony Armstrong-Jones differently this time. However, this newfound approach came at a significant cost for Antony. In order to marry Margaret, he had to make a considerable sacrifice by giving up his flourishing photography career. Antony, understanding the gravity of his decision, was willing to make this sacrifice for the woman he loved. Long before the prying eyes of the press caught wind of their blossoming romance, he discreetly began distancing himself from his professional commitments. While a London society was already acquainted with Antony due to his remarkable success in the world of photography, the rest of the world was about to be introduced to Antony Armstrong-Jones on a global scale. In a surprising and unexpected turn of events, a press release in 1960 announced the engagement of Princess Margaret and Antony, taking everyone by surprise. This included the ever-watchful royal press, who had not anticipated this development. While the news brought joy to many, there was one notable exception: Antony's father. His response was marked by his characteristic coldness and skepticism regarding his son's suitability for the role of a royal. He even went as far as likening Antony's future life in Buckingham Palace to being confined in barracks. Little did they know that his concerns would soon prove to have a basis in reality. The preparations for the royal wedding kicked into high gear immediately after the engagement announcement. Antony selected his friend Jeremy Fry to be his best man, but an unexpected twist disrupted the otherwise smooth proceedings. A background check on Fry revealed a scandalous incident in his past. He had been caught soliciting another man in a public bathroom. The palace, eager to prevent any further controversy, worked diligently to hide this scandal and provided a convenient excuse for Fry's absence from the wedding party. Despite their efforts, this incident cast a shadow over the upcoming union and raised eyebrows among the public and the press alike. Despite the challenges they faced, Antony Armstrong-Jones and Princess Margaret exchanged their vows on May 6, 1960, in a grand and momentous ceremony. This event marked a historic first, as no royal wedding had ever been televised before. The allure of the occasion drew approximately 20 million viewers who tuned in to witness this monumental event. The ceremony itself was attended by 2,000 guests, making it a grand affair that captured the imagination of the public. Following their splendid nuptials, it was time for the newlyweds to embark on their honeymoon. Antony and Margaret managed to orchestrate a getaway that allowed them to evade the usual public scrutiny. Their 6-week Caribbean honeymoon provided a sanctuary away from the prying eyes of the press and the demands of their royal duties. However, in doing so, they unintentionally missed significant events back home, including the birth of Antony's friend Jeremy Fry's child. Certain segments of the British press vehemently disapproved of the union between Princess Margaret and Antony. They regarded him as a commoner, which led to unfavorable scrutiny and criticism. This sentiment extended beyond the media, as snobbery and disdain came from various quarters of British society. Even within the confines of their own home, some of the palace's servants treated Antony poorly, viewing him as unequal to other members of the royal family. One particular butler became a notable source of trouble, casting a shadow over the early days of their marriage. Their life seemed to take on the elements of a farcical drama, with Antony often finding himself cast as the misfit within the royal circle. As Antony and Princess Margaret began their married life together, they made Kensington Palace their new home, hiring staff to manage their household affairs. However, their initial domestic arrangements were far from ideal. Their choice of a butler proved particularly problematic. This butler's tenure in their service lasted a mere 25 days before the press descended upon him, hoping to extract inside information about the couple's private life. To the disappointment of Antony and Margaret, the butler willingly complied, painting a rather negative picture of his brief stint in their employ. Antony faced additional challenges within the royal family, most notably from Prince Philip, who had never held a favorable opinion of him. With the marriage now a reality, Philip's disapproval became increasingly apparent, exacerbated by the clash of personalities and interests between the two men. Antony, being an artistically inclined and sensitive individual, contrasted sharply with Philip's rugged outdoorsman persona. As the press scrutiny intensified and the pressure mounted, Antony found himself shouldering an ever-increasing burden, and it wouldn't be long before visible cracks began to surface in their married life. Within a few months of their marriage, the couple received the joyous news that Princess Margaret was pregnant with their first child. In anticipation of the forthcoming addition to their family, Antony accepted the royal title of Earl of Snowdon, a decision that remarkably garnered full approval from his mother, a rare occurrence in his life. In November 1961, their son was born, marking a momentous occasion in their lives. However, parenthood did not come naturally to Antony and Margaret. Their roles as parents presented them with new challenges and responsibilities that they were not fully prepared for. In their quest to adjust to their newfound roles, they embarked on another trip to the Caribbean, perhaps seeking solace and respite from their duties. Upon their return, Antony found himself grappling with the daunting task of finding a suitable occupation that would satisfy both his artistic inclinations and the expectations of his in-laws within the royal family. While Antony was immersed in his own pursuits, Margaret felt increasingly neglected, both by her family and her husband. This neglect took a toll on her, and her interest in various forms of escapism, including drinking, began to take precedence in her life. Princess Margaret, once hailed as the media's darling, found herself thrust into the unforgiving spotlight of criticism, with Antony bearing the brunt of the blame for their marital issues in the eyes of the press. Their once charmed royal life seemed to have transformed into an ongoing comedy of errors, with Antony struggling to balance his artistic pursuits with the demands imposed by his royal in-laws. Despite their differences in interests, Princess Margaret and Antony did share one common thread. They were both part of the vibrant scene of swinging London during the early 1960s, and they embraced the opportunities it offered. Antony found himself mingling with Vogue's influential figures, while Margaret struck up friendships with iconic celebrities like the Beatles and Peter Sellers. They had grown apart from their respective families, only reconnecting for official royal events, and their once familiar circle of friends had undergone significant changes. However, this growing distance would eventually sow the seeds of trouble within their marriage. In 1964, Princess Margaret gave birth to their second child, a daughter named Sarah, a mere 4 years into their marriage. On the surface, they portrayed the image of the perfect family, but beneath the facade, cracks began to emerge, and their fairy tale marriage was poised to unravel. The strain of life within the royal circle and the increasing emotional distance took a toll on Antony Armstrong-Jones. He yearned for a break from it all, and in 1965 he hatched a plan to embark on a trip with a friend from the publishing world. However, this trip bore an air of mystery and intrigue that was hard to ignore. The official explanation from the palace was that Princess Margaret couldn't accompany Antony due to her obligations related to the Queen. But in truth, Antony had been devoting a significant amount of his time to a romantic liaison with the married Vogue editor Pamela Collin. To Antony's astonishment, their interactions went beyond the realm of work-related matters, and he found himself ensnared in a complex web of emotions. Rather than succumbing to despair, Princess Margaret decided to take matters into her own hands and embark on her own clandestine adventures. She engaged in a passionate affair with her daughter's godfather, Anthony Barton, and grew closer to the actor Peter Sellers. While their fame seemed to preclude anything beyond mild flirtations, Princess Margaret wasn't about to let the drama in her marriage fade into the background. Their relationship had transformed into a full-blown soap opera, capturing the fascination of the public. Rumors swirled relentlessly about Princess Margaret's alleged affairs with famous figures like Mick Jagger, Warren Beatty, and Leslie Hutchinson. However, concrete evidence to substantiate these claims was scarce. Amidst the swirl of speculation, one affair would etch itself into the annals of history: her relationship with Robin Douglas Home, the former Prime Minister's nephew. This particular liaison spiraled into a passionate and intense connection that would rock the foundations of their marriage. The dramatic crescendo occurred when Antony walked in on Princess Margaret and Robin engaged in conversation at Kensington Palace, their shared residence. To further complicate matters, Robin initiated divorce proceedings with his wife, heightening concerns about the deepening emotional bond between him and Margaret. In a calculated move to regain control of the situation, Antony devised a strategy to intervene. He intercepted a letter that Robin had written to Margaret, exposing the intimate nature of their relationship, and promptly presented it to the Queen Mother. Antony then demanded that Margaret sever all ties with Robin. This maneuver not only rid him of what he perceived as an annoyance, but also cleverly shifted the blame for the deteriorating state of their marriage onto Margaret herself. By doing so, he sought to secure more freedom for his burgeoning career and future affairs. It was a move worthy of a chess grandmaster, and the ensuing drama rivaled that of a Shakespearean play. Ultimately, Princess Margaret yielded to Antony's demands and put an end to her relationship with Robin Douglas Home. While their affair had been brief, its consequences would prove to be unsettling. Tragically, Robin Douglas Home took his own life just 18 months later, at the tender age of 36. One might have expected this tragic turn of events to serve as a wake-up call for Antony or Margaret, prompting them to realize the depths to which their behavior had plunged. However, the reality was quite the opposite. This unfortunate incident marked the inception of years characterized by infidelity between them, and their relationship grew increasingly bitter. Antony, in particular, resorted to juvenile methods to convey his displeasure with Margaret. He compiled a list of grievances within a book, intended for her discovery, in which he hurled hurtful and derogatory remarks. One such comment read, "You look like a Jewish manicurist, and I hate you." On other occasions, his actions were even more direct and confrontational, with Antony rudely interrupting her at social gatherings with dismissive comments like, "Shut up and let someone intelligent talk." Their conduct created an uncomfortable atmosphere for those in their vicinity. And while Antony seemed impervious to the tension, Margaret found herself in a state of profound unhappiness. Antony wasn't the sole recipient of Princess Margaret's frustrations. Surprisingly, the royal family itself began to take sides during their tumultuous relationship. Antony garnered favor due to his likable personality, leading the family to rally behind him. This support extended beyond the immediate family circle as well. While the rest of the royal family was acutely aware of the issues simmering between Margaret and Antony, they held out hope that the couple could discreetly lead separate lives to avoid the embarrassment and scandal associated with divorce. Although Margaret and Antony complied with this tacit arrangement, the emotional toll weighed far heavier on Margaret than on her husband. To cope with the mounting stress and emotional turmoil, Margaret sought solace in the bottom of a glass, turning to alcohol more frequently. Her behavior in public took on a rude and sometimes abrasive tone, which further exacerbated her image among the anti-monarchists. These critics seized upon her actions and the associated financial costs, shining a spotlight on her as a source of contention. It was an unexpected turn of events, demonstrating that even princesses could have their fair share of royally awkward moments. However, it would take a few more years of tumultuous drama before the full weight of the consequences finally caught up with her. As the swinging 60s drew to a close, Antony and Princess Margaret's incessant infidelity had lost its initial allure, becoming a mundane and routine aspect of their lives. The couple found themselves spending increasingly less time together, and any hope of a reconciliation seemed remote at best. It appeared that anything, or rather anyone, could serve as the catalyst to bring their tumultuous marriage to a crashing end. During their honeymoon, a friend had bestowed upon them a 6-acre plot of land on Mustique, a picturesque Caribbean island. Strangely, Antony never returned to this idyllic retreat, but Margaret found solace and refuge there during the tumultuous periods of their marriage. It was on this serene island that she became entangled with Roddy Llewellyn, the son of a famous British equestrian who happened to be 18 years her junior. Their relationship began as a friendship but continued for a couple of years, commencing when he was 25 and she was 43. At first glance, it appeared to be just another affair in their long history of indiscretions, but this liaison would prove to be the catalyst for a major upheaval in their lives. Who would have thought that the tranquil Caribbean islands would become a hotspot for royal mischief? In an unexpected twist, Rupert Murdoch, the famous press magnate, dispatched a New Zealand journalist to Mustique. This journalist posed as a peer, accompanied by his wife during their visit to the island. Little did Margaret and Antony know that their serene sanctuary would become a battleground for scandal, The journalist managed to capture a photograph of Princess Margaret and Roddy together during their stay. The subsequent publication of these photos marked the final devastating blow to Antony and Margaret's already strained marriage. Moreover, it tarnished the royal family's public perception of their distant and troubled relationship, casting a dark shadow over the monarchy. Recognizing the need to address the mounting issues in his life, Antony, who had increasingly immersed himself in documentary work, began to contemplate a legal separation from Princess Margaret. The strain in their marriage had reached a point where action was necessary. However, the royal family appeared hesitant to tackle this matter head-on, leading to a prolonged period of uncertainty. Growing frustrated with the lack of progress, Antony decided to take matters into his own hands. Without seeking Margaret's or the royal family's consent or knowledge, he made a bold move by publicly announcing their separation. It was a significant step that shook the public and marked a pivotal moment in their tumultuous relationship. Little did he know, there were surprises awaiting him as well. Following their legal separation, the tension that had long plagued Antony and Princess Margaret began to dissipate. Antony, not one to push for a divorce, had accepted the notion that the palace would unlikely grant one, and he seemed content with the prospect of remaining legally separated indefinitely. However, much to the astonishment of everyone involved, including the public, the palace eventually agreed to their divorce, which was officially finalized in 1978. Antony wasted no time in moving on from his past. His romantic involvement with production assistant Lucy Lindsay Hogg had gradually evolved from professional to personal long before the legal separation from Margaret. Margaret, Antony's ex-wife, found herself taken aback when he announced his intentions to marry Lucy, a mere 5 months after their divorce was official. The couple tied the knot in December 1978, but their union was far from a fairy tale ending. Thus began Antony's rapid transition from the drama of one marriage to the chaos of another, reaffirming the notion that when it came to relationships, he was perpetually in a hurry to move on to the next chapter. Despite shedding the bitterness that had marred the last decade of his marriage to Princess Margaret, Antony didn't entirely abandon his old vices. Somewhere between his separation and divorce, he initiated an affair with the married journalist Anne Hills. Her reaction upon discovering Antony's marriage to Lucy was one of surprise, but she wasn't ready to sever her ties with Antony just yet. Little did they know that this affair would lead them down a dark and tumultuous path. While Antony may have found himself entangled in old habits, this time was different. Lucy possessed a patience and understanding that Margaret had never exhibited. With reduced press scrutiny and the absence of royal obligations, Antony seemed content in his marriage to Lucy. Their relationship appeared to be flourishing, even to the extent of having a child together. Amid this seemingly idyllic scenario, Antony managed to keep his affair with Anne Hills a well-guarded secret. In a notable departure from his previous actions towards Margaret, Antony began to channel his influence and resources towards a noble cause. He became an advocate for the disabled, a cause that held a special place in his heart due to the enduring effects of polio he had experienced. While his life with Lucy seemed to be filled with happiness and domesticity, he continued his clandestine affair with Anne Hills. Tragically, this affair unfolded over an astonishing span of 20 years. Anne had always harbored hopes for more from Antony. But as the years rolled by, it became increasingly evident that her desires would never be realized. She engaged in other relationships and even lived with other boyfriends, yet the longing for Antony remained ever present. Then, in late 1996, a series of unfortunate events unfolded in Anne's life. After contributing columns to The Guardian for many years, she found herself abruptly let go from her position. Another romantic relationship had faltered, and she faced yet another Christmas alone, without Antony by her side. Overwhelmed by profound depression, she made the tragic decision to end her own life. In the wake of her passing, a note was discovered, revealing her enduring love for Antony and a request for the return of a family heirloom he had once gifted her. Authorities tasked with investigating her death soon stumbled upon her diaries. These diaries, spanning 2 decades, contained intricate details of her complex and secretive involvement with Antony. As fate would have it, newspapers swiftly published the contents of these diaries, exposing Antony's continuous infidelity throughout his marriage. For Lucy, Antony's wife, this revelation uncovered a heartbreaking truth she could no longer ignore or deny. Antony's response to Lucy's discovery was nothing short of callous. He offered no explanation, showing little remorse for his actions, and seemed to expect that life would continue as usual. However, beneath the surface, Antony was concealing yet more secrets, each one more shocking than the last. Just 2 years after the press had exposed his long-term affair with Anne Hills, Lucy stumbled upon another earth-shattering revelation. Antony had fathered a child with Melanie Cable Alexander, a magazine editor nearly 30 years his junior. This revelation sent shockwaves through their already tumultuous relationship. Over the years, Lucy had become keenly aware of Antony's knack for manipulating the truth to his advantage. Faced with this undeniable truth, she bravely confronted him, and he had no choice but to confess to his infidelity. Lucy had made vows never to abandon her husband, but this revelation proved to be the breaking point for her. The trust they once shared had been irrevocably shattered. Caught between the 2 women in his life, Antony attempted to salvage both relationships, but it became abundantly clear that he couldn't satisfy the desires of either. Supporting an ex-wife, a mistress, and a growing number of children was taking an overwhelming toll on his finances, leaving him in a precarious position. In a surprising move, Antony encouraged Melanie to accept a $250,000 payout from Hello Magazine for an appearance, likely in a bid to alleviate his mounting financial burden. This decision, however, likely didn't sit well with Lucy, further straining their relationship. Ultimately, the situation reached a breaking point, and Lucy initiated divorce proceedings. Despite the pain caused by his lingering polio effects, Antony's unrelenting libido drove him to quickly move on, engaging in simultaneous relationships with multiple girlfriends. It appeared that, for Antony, old habits died hard, even in the face of the painful muscular atrophy caused by his lingering polio effects. In 2017, the enigmatic life of Antony Armstrong-Jones came to a peaceful end at his Kensington home, marking the passing of a complex figure at the age of 86. He was laid to rest in his family plot in Wales, an appropriate final resting place for a man whose life had been marked by both triumphs and scandals. Remarkably, he outlived his ex-wife Margaret by 15 years, a testament to his longevity. His other ex-wife, Lucy, still lives today and maintains a friendship with Antony even after their divorce. She continued to care for him during his later years, providing a support system that transcended their failed marriage. As Antony's life came to a close, some of his most scandalous secrets began to emerge, casting a revealing light on his character. Beyond his affairs with women, there were speculations and rumors regarding his sexuality, including suggestions of being bisexual. While a couple of male interior designers claimed to have had romances with him, these claims remained unverified, adding an air of mystery to Antony's personal life. The ongoing feud between Antony and Margaret continued to captivate the public's imagination. Rumors swirled during their turbulent relationship, including one suggesting that Princess Margaret had a fling with Mick Jagger, the charismatic frontman of the Rolling Stones. In a twist of tit for tat, Antony was rumored to have had an affair with Mick's glamorous wife, Bianca Jagger, further fueling the intrigue surrounding their lives. Interestingly, Antony's history of indiscretions stretched further back in time than previously known. The dissolution of his marriage to Princess Margaret was a public spectacle, but the trouble had been brewing long before it became public knowledge. In a shocking revelation in 2004, DNA testing confirmed that Anthony had an illegitimate daughter, born just weeks before his marriage to Margaret. Adding to the scandal was the identity of the girl's mother, Camilla Fry, the wife of Anthony's best friend. This revelation seemed to underscore the depth of Anthony's infidelity and the extent to which he pushed boundaries in his relationships. The tumultuous relationships and the shocking revelations surrounding Antony Armstrong-Jones reveal a complex tapestry of infidelity and scandal. These revelations offer glimpses into Anthony's character and the turmoil that pervaded his relationships. One cannot help but wonder how Princess Margaret would have reacted had she discovered the full extent of his secrets, a chapter in history that remains forever intertwined with their names. The life of Antony Armstrong-Jones was a riveting blend of triumphs, tragedies, and secrets that captivated the public's imagination. As we reflect on the enduring allure of scandals and the intricate web of emotions that defined his life, we would love to hear your thoughts. Do you believe Anthony's actions were a result of his personal struggles or the byproduct of a unique era in history? Let us know in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this journey through his life, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more captivating narratives. Thank you for joining us today, and until next time.